Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to bring you the clearest, most impactful insights from your sources.
We really dig in, don't we?
We do. And
Yeah.
today, we're embarking on a journey, really, to answer a fundamental question. How do we not just have a voice, but truly make it heard? And use it to shape our lives and, well, the world around us.
That's the core of it, isn't it? It's more than just, speaking aloud. It's about cultivating an inner clarity, a conviction that then manifests in genuine impact.
Right. How do we move beyond simply expressing opinions, maybe venting online, to actually making a tangible difference?
That's the question we're tackling.
Exactly. Our deep dive today pulls together a really rich tapestry of wisdom. It's quite a mix.
It is. We'll draw from ancient Greek and Roman philosophers, orators,
Yeah, the big names.
and then hear from powerful American abolitionists, civil rights pioneers.
Voices that changed history.
Absolutely. And we'll also gain some practical lessons from modern self-help gurus and thought leaders, too.
So it spans quite the historical range. This is basically your shortcut to understanding the art of persuasion, the power of purpose, and maybe that profound responsibility of being an engaged individual.
Mm-hmm. And our mission for you, the listener, is really to equip you with a toolkit of timeless wisdom.
Okay.
We'll explore how you can communicate with clarity and conviction, how to cultivate that inner strength and purpose, and ultimately how you can leverage your unique perspective to make a lasting difference.
Get ready for some unexpected facts, maybe some aha moments. We hope it sparks new ways of thinking about your own voice.
Definitely some food for thought.
Okay, let's kick things off then. Let's travel back to ancient times. The art of rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much more than just winning an argument back then, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was really about defining effective communication itself. How do you actually connect?
So what did the ancients really mean by it? How did they separate it from, say, just manipulation or, mere persuasion?
Well, it's fascinating when you look at figures like Aristotle. In his Rhetoric, he basically laid out a blueprint for powerful wording.
A blueprint. Okay.
Yeah. He believed language should be clear, first off, makes sense, but also pleasing, and this is the surprising part, unfamiliar, all at the same time.
Unfamiliar. That sounds a bit contradictory. How can it be clear and unfamiliar?
It's about freshness, not using cliches, making people see something in a new way. That blend ensures your message is accessible, yes, but also memorable. It sticks with you.
Okay, I see. Freshness, not obscurity. But where's the line? Did Aristotle warn against any common communication traps?
Yeah.
Falling into just being weird or hard to follow?
He absolutely did. Aristotle was very clear that language should always serve the message, not distract from it.
Right.
His key insight: avoid what he called linguistic showing off.
Linguistic showing off. I like that.
Yeah, think obscure jargon nobody understands, or sentences so convoluted you lose the thread, or maybe metaphors that are so outlandish, so tragic or comic, as he put it, that they just make your audience chuckle, or worse, tune out instead of grasping your point.
So if this style draws attention to itself.
It fails. He observed such usage can come across as ridiculous. The goal is always clarity. So what is easy to read is easy to say and clear to a listener. Simple, direct, grammatical language is fundamental.
Makes sense. Easy to read, easy to say, clear to hear.
But here's where it gets really interesting, a bit more complex. He even suggested that describing something by highlighting attributes it does not possess.
Saying what it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can actually increase the weightiness of your message. It makes the absence felt, It adds a kind of profound impact by implication.
Wow, that's a sophisticated technique.
Yeah.
Emphasizing absence to create presence. That's deep.
It really is.
But, not everyone was completely sold on rhetoric, especially if it lacked a moral core. Plato, speaking through Socrates, he had some pretty strong critiques, didn't he?
He certainly did. Plato, especially in dialogues like Gorgias and Phaedrus, really put rhetoric under the microscope. He highlighted Socrates' famous method, the elenchus.
The Socratic method, the questioning.
Precisely. Intense questioning designed to reveal contradictions in someone's thinking. In Gorgias, Socrates challenges the whole idea of persuasion just for persuasion's sake.
What was the core issue for him?
He argued that if rhetoric isn't grounded in a true understanding of right and wrong, of justice, well, it could easily lead an orator, even unintentionally, to do harm or persuade people towards harmful actions.
So skill without wisdom is dangerous.
That's exactly it. For Plato and Socrates, true rhetoric wasn't just about winning people over with superficial charm or clever tricks. It aimed for what was genuinely best for the soul. Its goal was to cultivate order, proportion, virtue in citizens.
More like education than persuasion, in a way.
In the highest sense, yes. He even saw some forms of rhetoric as just a type of flattery. He called it a shadow of a small part of politics, or even compared it to cookery, something that pleases the body but isn't necessarily good for it, like medicine is.
Kookery as flattery for medicine. That's a sharp comparison. So it wasn't just about style, but the very intention, the moral foundation of the message.
Absolutely. And he didn't stop there. He famously had reservations about, well, writing itself, even back then.
Right, in the Phaedrus. That always fascinates me. What was his beef with writing?
Well, Plato, speaking through Socrates again, worried that relying on writing could potentially weaken our memory. We wouldn't need to hold things internally if we could just look them up,
A very modern-sounding concern.
isn't it? And he also argued that written words are static. They can't answer back. They can't engage in a dynamic dialogue to clarify or develop ideas further. If you misunderstand a written text, it can't explain itself.
Or it's a real conversation.
Exactly. He believed genuine education and deep understanding came from that interactive, often one-to-one philosophical dialogue, where ideas could be truly explored, questioned, refined privately between souls. Persuasion based only on written words, without that deeper dialectical understanding, he felt, could actually be detrimental to the soul.
That's a really powerful perspective on how we learn and share knowledge. It makes you think about email versus conversation, doesn't it?
It really does. The limitations of asynchronous static text.
Okay, so moving from Plato's deep moral framework, let's jump to Rome. The great orator Cicero in the Oratory. He seems to offer more of a masterclass in the practical application of persuasive speech, but still value that ethical core, right?
Yes, Cicero is fascinating because he bridges that gap. He emphasized that an orator's virtue wasn't just about technical skill, though skill was essential. It was a blend of, let's say, art and something more profound character, wisdom.
So what were the key elements for Cicero?
He laid out three primary aims for an orator. He put it beautifully in Latin: conciliare, docere, movere.
Okay, break that down for us.
Conciliare, to win over your audience, to conciliate them, build rapport, make them like you and trust you. Docet, to teach them, to inform them, present the facts clearly. And movere, to move their emotions, to stir their feelings.
Win them, teach them, move them. Simple but powerful.
And he believed a truly effective speaker had to master all three. You couldn't just inform without connecting, or just stir emotions without a basis in fact or logic.
That moving part, though, exciting emotions, like grief or anger, sounds like it could easily slip into manipulation, back to Plato's concern. How did Cicero address the authenticity of that?
That's a crucial point, and Cicero added a critical dimension here. He insisted that to truly move an audience to feel these powerful emotions, he lists dolorem, grief, misericordiam, mercy, invidium, envy, odium, hatred. The speaker themselves must genuinely be moved by those same emotions.
So you have to feel it to make them feel it.
Precisely. It's about authentic connection, that transference of genuine feeling, not just putting on the performance. He believed the audience could tell the difference.
That makes sense. People can often sniff out fakeness.
Right. And he also made an interesting observation about arguments made when provoked quaelicesitidicimus, the things we say when challenged or attacked.
What are those?
He suggested these often seem more probable, more believable to an audience, and they demonstrate a kind of intellectual speed, a humanity, a genuineness that prepared speeches might lack. There's power in a spontaneous, impassioned response.
So a true orator isn't just a polished technician reciting lines, but someone with deeply felt convictions who can respond authentically in the moment.
That's the ideal Cicero paints, skill combined with genuine feeling and intellectual agility.
Okay, so building on Cicero.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Quintilian, another major Roman authority on rhetoric. How do you translate these sort of high ideals into practical guidance for people actually learning to speak persuasively?
Quintilian was very much about the practicalities, the education of the orator right from the start. He saw the rhetorician's role beginning early, teaching boys how to compose narratives, how to practice praising someone or something or denouncing it, building the foundational skills.
Laying the groundwork early.
Yes, but like Cicero, he deeply emphasized the moral dimension. His famous definition of the ideal orator is the good man speaking well.
The good man speaking well. The character comes first.
Absolutely. He stressed that a good man who is believed by the audience to be a good man will inevitably have the strongest influence. Trust and integrity are paramount.
So reputation matters hugely.
Enormously. He even suggested that it was preeminently desirable for an orator to take on a case not for money or fame, but out of a sense of duty to a friend or relative, or even better, patriotism, or at any rate, some serious moral consideration. The motivation itself lends
The
credibility.
why behind the speech is as important as the how.
Exactly. And perhaps Quintilian's most enduring piece of practical wisdom was his emphasis on sagacity.
Sagacity. What did he mean by that? Wisdom.
Yes, practical wisdom, good judgment. He said, and this is powerful, nothing in all the tasks of life that is more important than sagacity, and that without it all, formal instruction is given in vain.
Wow. All formal instruction is useless without it.
That's what he argued. Because sagacity, for Quintilian, is what teaches you the crucial skill of adapting your speech, adapting it to the specific circumstances, the time, the place, the particular people you're addressing. It's the wisdom to know what to say, how to say it, and when to say it for maximum effect and appropriateness. It's wisdom in application.
Okay, so we've explored the external art, crafting the message, understanding the audience, the ethics, but that's only half the equation, isn't it?
Not even half, maybe. The inner work is just as vital, if not more so.
Right, because before you can truly influence the world, you have to cultivate your own self-belief, your own purpose. It's about finding that inner voice.
And sometimes that starts with recognizing what's already there, unearthing your own acres of diamonds, as the saying goes.
Ah, acres of diamonds. That immediately brings Russell H. Conwell to mind and his incredibly famous lecture. Tell us about that core idea.
Conwell's foundational idea, the one that resonated with millions, was incredibly simple but profound. Opportunities, often of immense value, are right there, right within the sound of your voice. They're available locally, in your community, in your current situation.
But we overlook them.
Frequently, we're always looking elsewhere, thinking the grass is greener somewhere far away. And this idea, for Conwell, extended beyond just monetary wealth. It applied to untapped potential skills you haven't developed, needs in your community you could meet, immediate opportunities you just haven't seen yet.
I love that concept. The treasure is often buried in our own backyard. Do you have a specific story from Conwell that really illustrates this?
Well, the classic one he told involved a farmer named Ali Hafed in ancient Persia who heard about diamonds found elsewhere. So he sold his farm, left his family, and wandered the world searching for diamonds, eventually dying penniless and disillusioned.
Oh, wow. And the punchline.
The man who bought Ali Hafed's farm. One day, he noticed a funny-looking rock in the stream running through the property. That rock turned out to be a massive diamond. The farm, Ali Hafed's original farm, turned out to be the site of one of the richest diamond mines in history, the Golconda mines. He'd sold acres of diamonds for practically nothing to go searching elsewhere.
Wow, what a parable. He had it all along.
Exactly, and Conwell connected this directly to his own life, too. He told a funny story about working in his father's country store as a boy.
Oh, yeah.
Customers kept asking for jackknives, but he never stocked them, thinking they weren't important enough or maybe wouldn't sell well. He kept missing the obvious demand right in front of him.
The jackknife anecdote.
Yes. He realized later, he said, I had not then learned that the foundation of godliness and the foundation principle of success in business are both the same precisely, which for him was a duty to observe the needs around you and supply them ethically.
So, paying attention and serving a need. And he had a strong view on ethical profit, didn't he?
He did. He argued it's a criminal to sell goods for less than they cost because that hurts everyone eventually. But it's also dishonest to gouge customers, to overcharge excessively.
Finding the fair balance.
Yes. His ideal was to structure a deal or sell a product so that the person to whom I sell shall make as much as I make. A mutually beneficial exchange, grounded in service. He really lived this too. His background as a union colonel, a lawyer who was guardian for over 60 children for free, a lay preacher. He seemed focused on service, almost forgetting his own heroic acts, like saving lives on a sinking ship. He tended to forget that sort of thing, focusing on the next need.
A life of service, not self-aggrandizement. That really ties into finding purpose beyond just profit. Okay, moving from finding opportunity nearby to the power of our own minds. Let's talk about Earl Nightingale and the strangest secret.
Ah, yes, a classic of motivational thought. Nightingale's core definition of success is incredibly powerful in its simplicity.
Well, was it?
He defines success as this: the only man who succeeds is the man who is progressively realizing a worthy ideal.
Progressively realizing a worthy ideal. It's about the journey towards a goal.
Exactly. It's not about reaching some final destination, but about the process of setting a clear, meaningful goal, a worthy ideal, and consistently working towards it. That is success, according to Nightingale.
And he had some stark statistics about goals, didn't he?
He did. He often cited the statistic, and sources vary on the exact number over time, but his point was that maybe only 5%, maybe 1 out of 20 people actually have definite, clear goals they're working towards.
Only 1 in 20. That's low.
It is. And those who do have goals, he argued, succeed because they know where they're going. He used the analogy of a ship. A ship with a captain, a crew, and a definite port of call, a mapped-out voyage, will almost certainly reach its destination. But a ship without direction, it'll just drift aimlessly, maybe end up on the rocks.
Goals provide the direction, the map. And he also heavily emphasized the power of our thoughts, didn't he? Almost like an early proponent of the law of attraction.
Very much so. He wasn't necessarily mystical about it, but he deeply believed in the power of focused thought. He drew on ancient wisdom, frequently quoting the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, saying, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it."
Our thoughts shape our reality.
And he quoted Emerson, too. "A man is what he thinks about all day long." Nightingale was utterly convinced that if you only care enough for a result, you will almost certainly ascertain it. That focus, that desire, directs your energy and actions.
Which led him to his famous challenge.
The 30-day test. It was a very practical challenge he issued to his listeners. Take control of your mind consciously for just 30 days.
What did it involve?
Write down your specific goal on a card. Then, for 30 days, actively replace any negative or fearful thought with a mental image of your positive goal. Do more than you have to in your work. Maintain a cheerful, positive outlook and deliberately stop worrying.
Sounds simple, but probably very hard in practice.
Extremely hard. But his core principle was biblical. You reap what you sow. So negative thoughts, worry, fear, you'll reap negative results. So positive thoughts, focus on your goal, act with purpose and good cheer, you'll reap positive results.
And how did he connect this mindset to, say, financial success?
He saw financial return as a direct consequence of service. He stated it as a kind of law. Our financial return will be in direct proportion to our service.
Service first, money follows.
Exactly. Money, in his view, is the result of success, the measure of the service you provided, not its cause. You don't succeed by chasing money. You attract money by successfully serving others' needs with a worthy ideal.
That's a really important distinction. Okay, that focus on mindset and overcoming limitations brings us perfectly to Les Brown. His personal story is incredibly powerful in illustrating this.
It truly is one of the most moving and inspiring stories in this field. Brown often shared his experience of being labeled educable, mentally retarded EMR back in grade school, put in special education classes feeling dismissed and overlooked.
That must have been devastating for a child's self-worth.
Absolutely. But then came a pivotal moment with a teacher, a mentor figure named Mr. Leroy Washington. Brown was hesitant to participate in class, saying something like, "I can't do that, I'm EMR."
And Mr. Washington's response.
Mr. Washington apparently looked him right in the eye and said, with force and conviction, "Do not ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality."
Wow. Just those words.
Brown described feeling, in that instant, the first tinglings of liberation. That one sentence from someone who believed in him shattered the limiting label he had internalized. It completely changed his perception of himself and his potential.
That just shows the incredible power a teacher, a mentor, a single voice can have. So based on that transformative experience, what did Les Brown emphasize about setting goals?
He built on that foundation of self-belief. He stressed the importance of setting goals that are, 1, well-defined, you have to know exactly what you want, 2, realistic, but also 3, exciting and meaningful to you, goals that stretch you.
Gotta be compelling.
Yes. And critically, goals that you actively pursue. Don't just write them down. He encouraged people to really envision what they would go after if you knew you would not fail. Get past the fear. And underlying it all was the importance of empowering yourself, as he put it, early on with a sense of our own specialness and uniqueness, our capacity for greatness, and thus increase our sense of self-worth. You have to believe you deserve the goal.
Believe in your own greatness. Fantastic. Now, shifting to a more contemporary giant in personal development, Tony Robbins, he brings in some interesting concepts like metaprograms and the power of physiology. How do these fit into finding and strengthening our inner voice?
Robbins offers some really practical levers you can pull. His concept of metaprograms is about understanding your fundamental motivational drivers. He suggests most people are primarily motivated either by moving toward pleasure or moving away from pain.
Toward pleasure or away from pain, like seeking reward versus avoiding punishment.
Kind of, yeah. Are you more driven by achieving a positive vision, the excitement of the goal? Or are you more driven by escaping a negative situation, the fear of failure or discomfort? Understanding which one is your primary driver, your meta program, helps you understand why you do things and how to motivate yourself more effectively. It also helps you understand and communicate better with others, recognizing their likely driver.
So knowing your internal operating system, that makes sense. And his idea about physiology as a lever, that sounds very direct.
It is incredibly direct and something you can change instantly. Robbins teaches that your physical state, how you hold your body, your posture, your breathing patterns, even your facial expressions, directly influences your emotional state and your mental performance.
Mind-body connection,
Yeah,
literally.
absolutely. He says things like, by standing up straight, lifting your shoulders, and taking deep breaths, you send signals to your brain to change its state. Feeling down or unmotivated, change your physiology deliberately. Stand tall, put a smile on your face, breathe deeply. It can shift you into a more resourceful, confident state almost immediately. It's a tool you always have with you.
That's empowering. Just changing how you stand can change how you feel and think.
And for Robbins, underlying all of this, the master key, as he calls it, is understanding your personal values.
Values is the master key.
Yes. He argues that your core values, what's most important to you in life, like freedom, security, love, contribution, adventure, whatever they are the ultimate key to understanding and predicting your own behaviors as well as the behaviors of others. If your life isn't aligned with your deepest values, you won't be fulfilled, he puts it starkly. You can have $1 billion, but if your life conflicts with your values, you won't be happy.
That really drives home the importance of internal alignment. Okay, one more key voice in this area of inner work. Zig Ziglar, another legend. He talked about building self-image through small, consistent steps, didn't he?
Yes, Ziglar's approach was always very down-to-earth, very practical and encouraging. He recognized that tackling huge goals can be intimidating and lead to a negative self-image if you stumble.
So how did he suggest starting?
He encouraged starting any new venture, any new habit with a phase you're confident you can handle, break it down, get some easy wins under your belt first.
Like warming up.
Exactly. He used the analogy of a high jumper. They don't start at their maximum height. They start lower, clear the bar easily, build confidence, see themselves succeeding, get into the rhythm, then they raise the bar gradually. Or a child learning math, you master 2 by 2 before you tackle calculus.
Makes perfect sense. Build momentum with small successes.
Yes, because each small accomplishment reinforces a positive self-image. You start to see yourself as someone who can do it. Then you transfer that confidence, that accomplishment, to the next bigger challenge. It's about building belief incrementally.
And he also made a really important point about the attitude behind the action, didn't he? Like, why you're doing something matters.
Immensely. He had great examples for this. If you study primarily just to get good grades, you might get them, but you won't retain as much knowledge or enjoy the process as much as if you study because you genuinely want the knowledge.
The motivation changes the outcome.
Right. And similarly, in a job, if you work primarily just for the paycheck, you might get it, but you likely won't find as much satisfaction or advance as quickly as someone who works for the betterment of the company, to contribute, to learn, to serve customers well. That attitude, Ziegler argued, ultimately leads to a bigger salary and greater personal satisfaction. The why shapes the what and the how much.
Okay, we've really laid the groundwork now. We've explored crafting the message effectively, ethically, and we've delved into cultivating that essential inner voice, the self-belief, the purpose.
Foundations are set.
Exactly. Now let's turn to how those voices, once found and strengthened, can be used and have been used historically to challenge injustice and profoundly shape the world around us. This is where individual purpose really meets collective impact.
This is where things get incredibly powerful and often require immense courage. Think about someone like Sojourner Truth and her legendary "Ain't I a Woman" speech.
An iconic moment.
Truly. But even beyond the speech itself, her very presence on that platform at the Fourth National Women's Rights Convention in 1853 was a radical act, an act of what some call embodied resistance.
Embodied resistance. How so?
Well, here she was, standing calm and dignified, according to accounts, directly confronting a hostile mob. And in her person, she combined, as one observer put it, the two most hated elements of humanity, at that time being black and being a woman. Just by standing there and demanding to be heard, she was challenging the entire social order.
Her physical presence was a political statement before she even spoke.
Absolutely. And she didn't just speak about her own experiences. She connected it to a broader call for empowerment, particularly through knowledge.
Knowledge is power again.
Yes. Driven by what was described as A holy indignation, she passionately encouraged knowledge and improvement, especially for African Americans. She believed deeply that knowledge is power. She challenged her community, asking pointedly, where can we find amongst ourselves the man of science, or a philosopher, or an able statesman, or a counselor at law?
She was pushing for intellectual and professional development as a path to equality and influence.
Precisely. It wasn't just about demanding rights, but about building the capacity to exercise those rights effectively and contribute fully to society. Her voice was a call to both resistance and advancement.
Her words carry so much weight, even today. And equally powerful, in a different way, is Frederick Douglass's landmark speech. What to the slave is the 4th of July? What made his approach so devastatingly effective?
Douglass was a master rhetorician, and his brilliance in that speech lay partly in his strategic refusal to argue points he considered self-evident and insulting to debate.
Refusing to argue. How did that work?
He powerfully declared he would not argue where all is plain. He asked his audience why should he need to stand there and prove the basic manhood of the slave.
Really, it should be obvious.
Exactly. And then he turned the tables, pointing out that the slaveholders themselves conceded the slave's manhood through their own actions and laws.
How so?
By enacting laws that punished enslaved black men more harshly than animals for the same offenses. And, crucially, by forbidding them to learn to read or write. Why would you forbid an animal to read? These laws, Douglass argued, implicitly acknowledge their humanity, their capacity for reason and moral understanding, even while denying them rights.
That's an incredibly sharp point, using their own laws against them to expose the hypocrisy.
Absolutely. He laid bare the deep constitutional contradictions, quoting Shakespeare, suggesting the Constitution seemed to palter with us in a double sense and keep the word of promise to the ear but break it to the heart. He exposed the bitter irony of celebrating freedom and independence on the 4th of July while millions remained enslaved. It was a moral indictment delivered with rhetorical genius.
A masterclass in using logic and irony to challenge power. And thinking about using established frameworks for radical ends, Elizabeth Cady Stanton did something similar with her Declaration of Sentiments, right?
She did, and it was strategically brilliant. At the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, the first women's rights convention, Stanton drafted the Declaration of Sentiments.
And its structure was very deliberate.
Extremely deliberate. It directly echoed the U.S. Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. But instead of listing grievances against King George, it meticulously listed grievances against the patriarchal structure of society, outlining the ways men had established an absolute tyranny over women, denying them the vote, property rights, education, employment opportunities, a voice in the laws that govern them.
So, using the foundational language of American freedom to demand freedom for women.
Precisely. It served as the foundational document for the organized women's rights movement in the U.S. It leveraged the immense moral authority and familiarity of the Declaration of Independence to assert urgent, radical claims for women's equality, a truly powerful use of rhetorical framing.
And just to add a stark personal note to the dangers faced, especially by women of color speaking out, that quote you found from Jenny Carter.
Yes, the poignant and chilling statement, "Often have I been told if I were a man I would be hung." It just powerfully encapsulates the extreme double standard, the heightened danger, the gender disparity and consequences and justice that women, particularly black women challenging the status quo, faced. Their voices carried immense personal risk.
Incredible examples of individuals using their voices against immense opposition. Now, let's shift focus slightly to leaders who held positions of power and used their influence to shape broader policy in society. Theodore Roosevelt, for instance. He had a distinct view on government's role and the nature of influence itself.
Theodore Roosevelt, was definitely a transformative figure. His Square Deal domestic program significantly enlarged the role of the federal government in regulating business and protecting consumers and workers. He wasn't afraid to use government power.
And he had a long-term vision, particularly with conservation.
Very much so. He was a pioneering conservationist, establishing national parks, forests, monuments, and he explicitly insisted on the need to consider the people unborn as well as the people now alive in these efforts. He understood that true leadership, especially regarding natural resources, required thinking generations ahead beyond immediate political or economic pressures.
That's a crucial perspective often missing today, thinking about the unborn. And he also had a somewhat cynical or perhaps realistic view on how power actually worked, beyond just the ballot box.
Yes, he had a very pragmatic understanding of influence. He famously stated, "This country is not run by votes. It is governed by influence. It is governed by the ambitions and the enterprises which control votes."
Influence controls votes.
Yeah.
That's a blunt assessment.
It is. He saw that powerful interests, ambitions, and organized efforts shaped public opinion and political outcomes more than individual votes alone might suggest. This perspective also informed his view on issues like women's suffrage. He supported it partly because he wanted to give women anything that the women of this country want, recognizing their growing influence as an organized force.
Interesting. So influence as the real currency of power.
And he wasn't shy about wielding influence, even through strategic inaction. His comments on the Panama Revolution that led to the building of the canal are quite revealing.
What does he say about that?
He frankly admitted his administration had previously kept my foot down on these revolutions, but then regarding the one that conveniently paved the way for the U.S. to acquire the canal zone, he said, "When the revolution referred to did occur, I did not have to foment it, I simply lifted my foot."
Wow. Just lifted his foot. That shows a very strategic, perhaps ruthless understanding and use of non-action as a form of decisive influence.
It certainly does, acknowledging his role without technically intervening.
Okay. Moving forward a few decades, another presidential voice etched into history, John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. That speech resonated globally for its call to responsibility and unity.
Absolutely. Kennedy's 1961 inaugural address is remembered for its soaring rhetoric and its powerful declaration of American commitment on the world stage right at the height of the Cold War.
What were some of the key pledges?
The most famous line, perhaps, is the pledge that the United States shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. It was an incredibly bold, almost unlimited statement of commitment to defending freedom globally.
A huge promise.
A huge promise. And he also articulated a compelling vision of united purpose, stating, "United, there is little we cannot do. Divided, there is little we can do." This was a call for collective action, both among allies abroad and for unity at home.
And he framed the struggle in broad terms, didn't he? Not just against communism.
Yes, that's important. He urged Americans and global citizens to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, not just against explicit political adversaries, but against what he called the common enemies of man: tyranny, poverty, disease, and war itself. It broadened the scope of the challenge beyond ideology to fundamental human problems.
Tyranny, poverty, disease, war. A powerful call to action on multiple fronts. Okay, now let's turn to a different kind of influential voice, a judicial one, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Her impact from the bench was immense, and her approach to disagreement and finding justice in the details is really insightful.
Justice Ginsburg's legacy is enormous, and her methods were fascinating. She often spoke about her relationship with Justice Antonin Scalia, her ideological opposite on the court.
The famous friendship despite disagreement.
Exactly. And she credited Scalia's dissents, often described by her as containing searing criticism, with consistently improving her own majority opinions.
How so? Did they make her angry?
No, quite the opposite, it seems. She said his sharp critiques forced her to confront the soft spots in her reasoning, to anticipate counter-arguments, and ultimately to write stronger, more persuasive opinions for the majority. She saw rigorous dissent not as an obstacle, but as a tool for refinement. It shows how even profound opposition can sharpen your own voice and make your arguments clearer, more robust.
That's a fantastic lesson in handling criticism constructively, welcoming challenges to strengthen your position. And her major impacts didn't always come from the most obviously landmark cases, did they?
No, and that's a key lesson, too.
Yeah.
Some of her truly great achievements, as she reflected, stemmed from seemingly small beginnings. Like a tax case she argued early in her career, Moritz v. Commissioner.
What was that about?
It involved a man denied a tax deduction for expenses incurred in caring for his elderly mother, a deduction allowed for women, widows, or divorced men, but not for single men who had never married. The amount in question was tiny, just $296.70.
Less than $300.
Yes. But that case became a crucial stepping stone. It helped fuel her work challenging gender discrimination and ultimately contributed to the Supreme Court establishing the intermediate standard of review for sex discrimination cases in a later case, Craig v. Boren.
And what does that standard mean, practically?
It meant that laws treating men and women differently weren't automatically presumed constitutional anymore. The government had to show that the law served important governmental objectives and was substantially related to achieving those objectives. It was a major shift, making it much harder to justify laws based on gender stereotypes, all stemming in part from that tiny tax case.
Amazing how small cases can set huge precedents.
And her insight extended to understanding how discrimination often works subtly. In the Ledbetter pay discrimination case, she wrote a powerful dissent.
What was her point there?
She noted that pay discrimination often doesn't happen in one big, obvious act. It occurs in small increments over time, and the disparities are often hidden from the employee's view. They might not realize they're being paid less for years. This understanding highlighted the need for legal concepts like disparate impact, where a policy might seem neutral but actually harms a specific group disproportionately, to address these built-in headwinds and systemic issues that aren't always intentional or overt. Her voice brought clarity to the often invisible nature of modern discrimination.
We've covered so much ground, from the ancient techniques of rhetoric to the modern cultivation of inner purpose and self-belief, and then seeing how those voices can be wielded powerfully for justice and societal change.
It's been quite the journey through ideas and history.
It has. But impact isn't usually a one-off event, is it? It's not just about one great speech or one big court case. So for this final section, let's consider the continuous journey. The ongoing pursuit of wisdom, self-reflection, and maybe kindness, that seems necessary to sustain impact over a lifetime.
That's a crucial aspect. The long game. And this brings us back to ancient wisdom again, perhaps with Seneca, the Stoic philosopher. His Letters from a Stoic offer such profound insights into this continuous lifelong practice.
Seneca. How did he view philosophy's role in this ongoing journey? Was it just abstract thinking?
Not at all. For Seneca, philosophy wasn't an academic subject to be debated. It was a practical, essential guide for living. He described it beautifully. Philosophy, he said, molds and constructs the soul. It orders our life, guides our conduct, shows us what we should do and what we should leave undone.
Molds the soul, orders life. That's very active.
Very active. He even used the metaphor of philosophy sitting at the helm and directs our course as we waver amid uncertainties. It's the steering mechanism for navigating the complexities and challenges of life.
Philosophy as a helmsman. I like that. So it's about actively guiding your actions day by day.
Exactly. And he emphasized the importance of daily reflection to make this real. It wasn't enough to just have good intentions or fleeting moments of clarity. Daily reflection helped deepen one's commitment to wisdom, to examine one's actions against one's principles, and to transform those good inclinations into what he called good settled purpose. Consistency was key.
So a daily practice of self-examination and course correction.
Yeah. And alongside that internal work, he also spoke passionately about the sheer joy of learning, of understanding the world, the joy of learning the truth about the universe, from contemplating nature's origins to understanding the courses of the stars. This embrace of continuous learning, this curiosity about the world, was integral to finding wisdom and living a fulfilled life.
So it's both deep internal reflection and a wide external curiosity feeding each other. That resonates. And that idea of grappling with deep truths, especially difficult ones, leads us naturally to Elie Wiesel. He spoke so powerfully about memory, critical thinking, and the need to confront history's hardest lessons.
Wiesel's perspective, forged in the crucible of the Holocaust, is profoundly important here. He consistently emphasized that memory is not just nostalgia, it is the main component in human experience and any human endeavor. It's fundamental to identity, to ethics, to understanding.
But not just passive remembering.
Right. No, absolutely not. He grappled constantly with the crucial, often painful distinction between merely knowing facts and truly understanding their implications, understanding enough to feel compelled to act. He said it was one thing to know that Jews were being killed and another to know that something had to be done for them.
That gap between knowing and acting, that's huge.
It is. He wrestled his whole life, he said, with not fully understanding how it happened, why it happened, and particularly with the profound, chilling indifference surrounding the killers and the victims. How could people know yet remain indifferent? That question haunted him.
So his voice was a constant call against indifference, urging us not just to remember facts, but to truly grapple with their meaning, their moral demands.
Exactly. He wasn't about providing easy answers. He believed in fostering encounters, dialogues, discussions where people could come together simply to try to explore an issue and see where it leads. Even if it meant questioning the most fundamental assumptions, like asking where was God during the Holocaust. His life was a testament to the necessity of continuous, difficult questioning, a refusal to settle for silence or easy answers, and a profound commitment to bearing witness.
That kind of unflinching self-reflection and questioning connects powerfully, I think, with the work of Brené Brown, especially around vulnerability and shame and daring greatly. How does her work contribute to this idea of sustaining impact through authenticity?
Brene Brown's research has had a huge impact because she zeroes in on vulnerability. She argues very persuasively that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's actually the core, the heart, the center of meaningful human experiences.
The core, so things like love, belonging, joy, courage, they all require vulnerability.
That's her argument. You can't experience those things fully without being willing to show up and be seen, even when you can't control the outcome. And the flip side of vulnerability, the thing that often stops us, is shame.
Shame. She talks a lot about that.
Yes, she defines shame as that intensely painful feeling or experience of believing we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. It's the voice that says, I'm not good enough. And it keeps us small, resentful, and afraid.
It's a powerful inhibitor. Can we resist it?
Interestingly, she says, shame resistance is not possible. We all feel it. But what is possible is shame resilience.
Shame resilience. What does that involve?
It involves recognizing shame when we feel it, understanding the specific messages and expectations that trigger it for us. She gives examples like women feeling the pressure to do it all perfectly and never let them see you sweat, or men facing deep shame around perceived weakness or sexual rejection. Resilience means reality checking those messages, reaching out to trusted people, and speaking shame because shame thrives in secrecy and silence.
So understanding triggers, seeking connection, speaking it out loud.
Exactly. And she also makes a crucial distinction between vulnerability and simply oversharing.
Right. Sometimes people just dump everything. Floodlighting, she calls it.
Yes, floodlighting. That can actually be a form of armor, a way to avoid true connection by overwhelming others. True vulnerability is about sharing appropriately with boundaries. And it ties into living with authenticity, aligning your aspirational values, what you say you believe, with your practiced values, how you actually behave. When there's a gap, the disengagement divide, it breeds cynicism and distrust.
Can you give an example of that divide?
She uses the example of a mother who preaches honesty to her kids, but then rationalizes keeping the extra change a cashier mistakenly gave her. The kids see the disconnect. Bridging that gap, she suggests, sometimes requires what she calls a wholehearted parenting moment, owning your own mistakes, like that mother admitting, I made a mistake, let's go back, which teaches empathy and integrity far more powerfully than just preaching.
Owning our imperfections, that takes courage. Shifting slightly, but staying with this theme of inner qualities, George Saunders delivered a graduation speech, congratulations by the way, that offers a very direct, almost simple path towards a better way of being.
It's a beautiful, concise piece. Saunders essentially views life, or perhaps the goal of life, as a gradual process of becoming kinder and more loving. That's the trajectory he encourages.
Becoming kinder. It sounds simple, but
Profoundly difficult. He identifies the main obstacle as our inherent selfishness, which he calls a kind of sickness we all suffer from.
selfishness as a sickness. Okay. Does he offer a cure?
He does, and it's not passive. The cure, he says, is to seek out the most efficacious anti-selfishness medicines energetically for the rest of your life.
Actively seek out anti-selfishness medicines. What does that mean in practice?
It implies actively working against our default self-centeredness, making conscious efforts to be more empathetic, more generous, more aware of others' needs and perspectives. It's not a one-time fix, it's a continuous, energetic, lifelong pursuit. A practice.
A lifelong practice of cultivating kindness. That's a powerful charge. And Kurt Vonnegut in his collection, If This Isn't Nice, What Is?, seems to echo that sentiment very strongly, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Vonnegut's work, beneath all the satire and science fiction, consistently carries this deep current of humanism. He stated quite plainly that his books essentially beg that people be kinder and more responsible.
He begged people to be kinder.
Yes. And he had enormous admiration for the figure of Jesus, calling him the greatest and most humane of human beings. And specifically, the Sermon on the Mount principles like mercy, humility, peacemaking, he felt it was perhaps the only good idea we have had so far. He said he was enchanted by the Sermon on the Mount, stating that being merciful is the only good idea we've had so far. That focus on basic kindness and mercy was central to his worldview.
Wow, the only good idea we've had. That's quite a statement.
It is, and he connected this need for kindness with the value of being informed, which brings us back full circle in a way.
How so?
He praised accessible sources of knowledge like the Encyclopedia Britannica back in the day, precisely because they helped ordinary people become reasonable and informed. He saw a link between being informed, being reasonable, and hopefully being kinder and more responsible. Education as a tool for human betterment.
Making the world more rational.
Yes. And he had this wonderful, playful way of acknowledging growth. Addressing college graduates, he called them freshly minted college graduates, acknowledging them as grown-ups who, through their education, had hopefully made the world a more rational world than it was before you got here. It's a lovely blend of acknowledging their achievement and gently reminding them of their responsibility.
Freshly minted grown-ups making the world more rational. I love that. Okay, finally, let's bring in Tara Grove's commencement speech, "The World is Waiting for You." Her message seems like a powerful call to reject complacency and actively engage in making change.
Grove's message is incredibly urgent and direct. It's a full-throated rejection of playing it safe. She implores the graduates, and by extension all of us, don't cave to the status quo.
Don't cave. Why is the status quo so dangerous in her view?
Because, she argues, the safe is the enemy of the satisfying. And worse, deferred gratification has a way of being deferred forever. If you keep putting off living fully or making changes because it feels risky, you might never do it. And fundamentally, she declares, the status quo has completely failed us. It's not delivering justice, equality, or sustainability. So clinging to it is not just unsatisfying, it's actively harmful.
Now, this stark assessment. The status quo has failed us.
Huh.
So if we reject safety and the status quo, what's our obligation instead?
Our obligation, she argues, is twofold. First, to live an examined life, echoing Socrates perhaps, to be fully present and aware, to embrace each moment as though it might be the last, bringing urgency, but also as though it might be the first, bringing openness and wonder.
Live each moment as if last and first. That's a beautiful paradox.
Isn't it? And the second obligation, flowing from that awareness, is the ultimate task. You must make it a better place than it was before you got here.
Make it better how you...
She points towards overcoming what she terms empathy deficit disorder, our failure to truly connect with the suffering and needs of others. And she advocates for pragmatic solidarity, not just feeling sympathy, but taking concrete action, building systems, changing policies to fight discrimination and neglect. It's a call for active, empathetic engagement to reshape the world.
Pragmatic solidarity. Taking real action based on empathy. A powerful concluding thought for this section. Wow, what an incredible journey we've just taken, weaving through literally centuries of wisdom. It's quite something when you pull it all together.
It really is. You start to see the connections, the recurring themes across vastly different times and contexts.
Yeah, definitely. We started way back exploring the ancient art of persuasive communication, thinking about Aristotle's call for clarity, pleasure, and unfamiliarity in language.
Right, and his warnings against just showing off with words, and Plato's insistence that true rhetoric has to be grounded in knowledge of the good, not just be clever flattery.
And Cicero's three aims: conciliate, teach, move, win them, inform them, stir them. But only if the speaker genuinely feels it.
And Quintilian rounding it out with the good man speaking well, emphasizing character and that crucial quality of sagacity, practical wisdom to adapt to any situation.
That we shifted inwards, didn't we, to cultivating that inner voice, the purpose, the self-belief.
Yeah. Conwell's acres of diamonds, that powerful idea of finding opportunity right where you are, often overlooked.
And Earl Nightingale defining success as progressively realizing a worthy ideal, driven by clear goals and the power of focused thought.
Les Brown's incredible story showing how one voice can shatter limiting beliefs and the importance of building that sense of self-worth, your capacity for greatness.
Followed by Tony Robbins' practical tools, understanding if you move toward pleasure or away from pain, using your physiology to change your state instantly and aligning with your core values.
And Zig Ziglar's practical advice. Build confidence through small, manageable steps and focus on the right attitude, study for knowledge, work for betterment.
And then Section 3, putting that voice into action for justice and impact. So many powerful examples.
Sojourner Truth's embodied resistance, demanding recognition, and urging the pursuit of knowledge as power.
Frederick Douglass brilliantly exposing hypocrisy by refusing to argue the obvious and using the oppressor's own laws against them.
Elizabeth Cady Stanton leveraging the Declaration of Independence to frame the fight for women's rights. Just incredible strategic communication.
And leaders like Theodore Roosevelt using influence, thinking long-term about conservation, even using non-action strategically.
JFK's call to global responsibility against tyranny, poverty, disease, and war.
And Ruth Bader Ginsburg, showing how dissent can strengthen arguments, how huge impact can come from small cases, and her clarity on subtle, systemic discrimination.
And finally, we landed on this continuous journey, sustaining it all through wisdom and kindness.
Seneca viewing philosophy as a practical helm for life, needing daily reflection and constant learning.
Eli Wiesel urging us to grapple with memory, to bridge the gap between knowing and acting, and to constantly question, resisting, indifference.
Brené Brown championing vulnerability as the core of connection and resilience in the face of shame.
And the resounding calls from George Saunders, Kurt Vonnegut, and Tara Grove for a lifelong active pursuit of kindness, mercy, critical thinking, and the courage to reject a failed status quo.
Reflecting on all this deep dive has shown us something really fundamental, hasn't it?
What stands out most to you?
That true influence, real meaningful contribution, it genuinely seems to begin internally. It starts with achieving that clarity of purpose, knowing your values, like Robin said, having the courage to be vulnerable, as Brown emphasizes.
Right. That inner alignment seems to be the prerequisite.
Exactly. And then those inner qualities, that strength, that clarity, can radiate outwards through communication that is deliberate, like the ancients taught, but also empathetic, sagacious, kind. And that's what shapes not just our personal success, maybe finding our own acres of diamonds, but the very fabric of society, challenging injustice, making things better.
So you, listening now, you have this incredible toolkit of insights drawn from such diverse and profound sources across history. The question really becomes, what now?
Yeah, what now? How will you apply these principles, ancient and modern, to truly find your voice, to clarify your purpose, and ultimately to make your unique contribution to the world, whatever that might be?
It's a big question, but maybe start small.
Maybe it does. So here's a provocative thought to leave you with, tying back to Conwell. Take a moment and consider the acres of diamonds in your own life, right now. What are the overlooked opportunities right in front of you? What are the unaddressed needs in your family, your workplace, your community? Are there quiet injustices happening that you've noticed but maybe haven't spoken up about?
Things waiting for your voice.
Exactly. They are all waiting for your cultivated voice, informed by wisdom, driven by purpose, tempered by kindness to bring them into the light. What truths will you uncover when you really look? And perhaps more importantly, what will you choose to do with them?